Is Ferrari trapped in another doom cycle that could waste years of championship potential? Why is their most loyal driver now questioning whether the team can get 2026 right? And what does a 5-race podium drought reveal about problems that go far deeper than just pace? Llair doesn't panic easily. This is a driver who's stuck with Ferrari through thick and thin, who signed a massive contract extension in January 2024 that ties him to the team until 2029. But right now, even he's starting to sound worried. And when a devoted Ferrari driver like Leclerc gets this pessimistic and blunt, you know something serious is happening inside Maranello. The numbers paint a grim picture. Ferrari hasn't stood on a podium in 5 races. That's their worst run in the Fred Vasseur era. But it gets worse. The data shows Ferrari has made virtually no progress relative to the front of the grid since the start of the season. While Red Bull has surged back into contention and Mercedes has overachieved with wins in Singapore, Ferrari is stuck in the same place they were in round 1. Llair's frustration is evident. He says he and teammate Lewis Hamilton are basically passengers, unable to fight for better positions because the car simply isn't competitive enough. And here's the kicker. Ferrari has introduced major upgrades throughout the year, supposedly aimed at curing weaknesses that were hiding the car's true potential. Yet they're still roughly the same distance behind McLaren as they were at the beginning of the season when the car was running legally. Think about what that means. All those development resources, all those upgrade packages, all that factory time. And they've essentially achieved nothing in terms of closing the gap to the leaders. But here's where this story takes a darker turn. Because Llair's concerns aren't just about 2025 anymore. The real alarm bells started ringing when Llair made an unprompted comment about 2026, while he acknowledged that F1's huge rules overhaul. Next year is a big opportunity for Ferrari to turn things around. He added something that should worry every Ferrari fan. I really hope we start 26 on the right foot, because otherwise it's going to be a tough couple of years. Why would he feel the need to say that? This is the same driver who's been Ferrari's most loyal supporter, who always backs the team publicly. The fact that he's now expressing doubt about Ferrari's ability to nail the new regulations suggests something has fundamentally shaken his confidence. And there's good reason for that doubt. Because if you look at Ferrari's recent history, you start to see a troubling pattern repeating itself. After the 2019 engine controversy, Ferrari logically sacrificed the 2020 and 2021 seasons to focus on the all-new ground effect regulations of 2022. That gamble paid off initially. Ferrari won races again, and Llair looked like a genuine title contender early on. But then, it all fell apart. Poor execution and weak development blunted Llair's championship challenge. In 2023, Ferrari overreached by building a car that was horribly peaky and destroyed its tires. In 2024, they went almost the opposite direction, creating a car that might have won the Constructors' title, if not for a rushed mid-season upgrade that took too long to reverse engineer. They ultimately lost that championship to McLaren by a narrow margin. And now, in 2025, Llair finds himself asking the same question again. Where's the sustained progress? The most revealing detail might be what Ferrari did back in mid-June. Ferrari made a crucial decision to switch off 2025 development, partly because they knew by then they wouldn't realistically be in the hunt for a championship that McLaren has dominated. On paper, that shows good foresight. It should help them start 2026 strongly by dedicating maximum resources to the new regulations. But here's the problem Leclerc might be seeing. If the tools and methodologies Ferrari is using to get ahead for 2026 are the same ones that made the 2025 car such a disappointment, then they could be setting themselves up for the same cycle of failure. They might be baking in a disadvantage for several more years without even realizing it. The performance data supports Leclerc's concerns. In the last 4 races since the summer break, the situation looks even worse. Red Bull's surge is clearly visible in the numbers, and Mercedes has overachieved with favorable results in Baku and that crucial win in Singapore. Meanwhile, Ferrari scored just 50 points in their last 5 races compared to 98 for Red Bull, 105 for Mercedes, and 134 for Constructors' champion McLaren. Ferrari's distant gap in pace has translated into results that are somehow even worse than the car's performance would suggest. Llair dropped out of win contention in Hungary before the summer break, a race where he'd overachieved against the mighty McLarens. He worried afterwards that he'd been cost his only real chance of victory this year. Turns out he was right. He hasn't stood on the podium since then, let alone fought for a win. And then there's the operational problems that suggest Ferrari is losing its way. In Singapore, a brake management problem emerged after just a few laps on both cars. Ferrari spent 95% of the race managing brake temperatures and not running at full pace. When Hamilton tried to push late on, his front left brake failed. This followed Baku, where Ferrari was fast in practice but had a poor qualifying. Fred Vasseur called it mega frustrating to have 2 races in a row where the performance potential was clearly above what the mediocre results suggested. There's also a hint of desperation creeping into Ferrari's approach. In Singapore, Llair admitted he did something a little bit stupid by adding a lot more front wing in Q3 after being frustrated by the car's understeer all weekend. That's not the mark of a confident team extracting maximum performance. That's a team throwing Hail Marys because they don't know what else to do. Ferrari should be reining in its drivers and focusing on getting the most out of the car they have. Instead, they're gambling on setups just to see if something works. That approach might partly be influenced by having 2 emotional drivers who are more prone than most to taking risks, but ultimately it falls on the team to provide direction and stability. When Llair signed that mega contract extension back in January 2024, committing himself to Ferrari until the end of 2029, he wouldn't have been expecting to reach the end of a full decade with the team without winning a world championship. But if Ferrari messes up again at the start of 2026 and shows the sort of wayward car development that's undermined them so badly in recent seasons, that's exactly the fate that likely awaits him. The trajectory is worrying, not just over the short term. There were clear signs of Vasseur's Ferrari becoming a more robust racing team over the last 2 years. But this season has had too many setbacks of varying proportions, and the same problems that have limited Ferrari since the start of the season are still there. That old issue of not being able to develop a car consistently still seems to be a significant weakness. So, what happens now? Ferrari is still fighting for second in the Constructors' Championship, even though Mercedes has jumped them in the last 2 events, and Red Bull remains in the mix. Ending the year, failing to get the most out of their car sets Ferrari up poorly heading into the crucial 2026 regulations. And it won't do much for restoring the shaken confidence that's clearly affecting even their most loyal supporters. The question isn't whether Ferrari can turn this around. The question is whether they have the right processes and methodologies in place to avoid repeating the same cycle that's plagued them for years. Because right now, even Llair isn't sure they do. What happens if Ferrari starts 2026 on the back foot again? Can Llair maintain his performance level if he's stuck in an uncompetitive car for another season? And is this the beginning of another Ferrari doom cycle that could define the rest of the decade? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.